And now, viewers, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to a great new children's ITV series. For the first time on television, the stories of Thomas the Tank Engine and friends. Take it away, boys.
The year is the 9th of October 1984. This weird ITV robot has just announced that one of the most popular children's entertainment shows in history is coming to our screens. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends aired this day 40 years ago with the episode Thomas and Gordon, and the franchise has never looked back since. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look at the past 40 years. In 1979, Britt Allcroft, a British television producer, was working on a documentary about the Bluebell Railway in Sussex. During her research, Allcroft discovered the Railway series books and was inspired by the stories. Allcroft was determined to bring Audrey's tales to life on the screen, so she agreed with Audrey to sell her the television rights, securing them for £50,000. Restoring to a second mortgage on her home, in no time Allcroft successfully raised the necessary funds to launch the show. She assembled a team including producer and director David Mitten, former pyrotechnics expert on Thunderbirds, American-born producer Robert D. Cardona, and the fantastic talent of the composers Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell. Audrey eventually agreed, and after a successful pitch and pilot with Down the Mine in 1983, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends was greenlit by ITV for 26 episodes, and the first episode airing on October the 9th, 1984. Thomas and Friends was an instant hit. 26 episodes aired in 1984, showcasing the magical storybook backgrounds and worlds that these lovable characters resided in. Be it Knapford Station or Tidmouth Sheds, the series was pure escapism. The team behind the series gave it their all, and it showed. From the stunning sky setting over the viaduct here in the first episode of Season 1, Thomas and Gordon, or the soothing atmosphere of the snow in the infamous episode The Flying Kipper, the series felt like it was lived in. Cosy, suspenseful, welcoming. Series 1 came to a close on the 8th of January 1985 with Down the Mine, and would go on to inspire 4 more magical seasons based on both the Railway series that came before and eventually original stories created by Allcroft and Mitten. Each series had highs and lows, but in retrospect there is no one episode I can call from the classic model era a bad episode. Some just lack a little less quality as others, but to a lot of people, and me included, they're still classics. Highlights from seasons 1 to 5 in my opinion include The Sad Story of Henry.
Once, an engine attached to a train was afraid of a few drops of rain. It went into a tunnel and squeaked through its funnel and wouldn't come out again.
Thomas's Christmas Party.
We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Whistles and Sneezes.
Soon they could see the boys, and they all had stones. "Are you ready, Henry?" said his driver. "Sneeze hard when I tell you." "Now," he said. "Atoosh-you!"
The Deputation.
Snow came early to the island of Sodor. It was heavier than usual. Most engines hate snow. Donald and Douglas were used to it. Coupled back to back, with a van between their tenders and a snowplow on their fronts, they set to work. They puffed backwards and forwards, patrolling the line.
A Close Shave.
"Beg pardon, sir," gasped Duck. "Excuse my intrusion." "No, I won't," said the barber. "You frighten my customers. I'll teach you." And he lathered Duck's face all over. Poor Duck.
Old Iron.
"Steady, Edward," called his driver. The inspector stood on Edward's front, holding a noose of rope in the crook of the shunter's pole. He was trying to slip it over James.
Toby's Tightrope.
Mavis was horrified and quickly came to the rescue.
Gordon and the Famous Visitor.
It was an important day in the yard. Everyone was busy and excited, making notes and taking photographs. A special visitor had arrived and was now the center of attention.
Henry's forest.
He could see the trees growing amongst the others on the hillside. Henry always felt better for being here. He couldn't really explain why, but his driver understood. If you should
Four
visit
little
a
engines.
place that has a lake in the woods and a beautiful waterfall, then you may also find two little engines called Skarloey and Renace. The engines know everybody and everybody knows them.
Steamroller.
The handle was crossed. Get out of my way, you great clumsy road dog! Huh, I don't move for imitation steamrollers, huffed George. They lumbered along as the insults continued.
Bulldog.
Falcon was derailed and hung dangerously over the edge.
Haunted Henry.
Faster! There's a ghost about! Stop! Stop! Yelled Henry. A mysterious figure watched Henry go miserable.
Toby and the Flood.
Everywhere was wet, wet, wet. His branch line runs through a village. The water in the river had risen with the rain. Night came.
And Toby's discovery.
Toby looked anxiously around. Everything seemed rather spooky. Quite suddenly, he heard a strange wheezing sound. It's the ghost, he wailed.
Now we get into my top 5 episodes, one episode from each of the seasons, starting with season 1, and of course it is to no one's surprise, The Flying Kipper. This one really stuck to me as a child. To no one's surprise, this one just had everything. The snowy landscape which the episode is situated in, the workmanship gritty lifestyle of the docks it was based in, the crash at the end, and of course it does show that these things have consequences. This one, like I say, always stuck with me in my mind, and the beautiful score done by Junior and Campbell just really hits home. This one, for me, is the best of season 1. Coming in for season 2, and to no one's surprise, it is of course Ghost Train. This one again was very tonefully different from the rest of the season, and it was Thomas's first take in sort of a horror themed style. This one I always thought the opening score was absolutely chilling and would always get me as a child. Seeing that obviously Percy model go across the viaduct with a little bit of meche stuck to it always just sent chills down my spine as a child. And like I say, just the tone and the dark sort of gritty atmosphere of the episode, all smoky, filmed in a very dark setting. This episode for me was the best of season 2.
I'm not scared.
Coming in at season 3 for me is All at Sea. The tranquillic and peaceful tone of the docks, the nighttime shots, the stunning sunset shot, and of course the important message of no matter how much you want to go out and explore the world, you realise what you have right at home. Coming in at season 4 for me is Sleeping Beauty. This one is what made me fall in love with the narrow gauge engines and sort of sent me down the rabbit hole of learning about the Thecheekyengine Railway, which this is obviously based in real life. I love the dynamic of obviously Duke, Falcon and Stuart, this father figure with two sort of youngsters playing around, and I love the tone that it really gives off that, you know, times change, things change, and not everything lasts forever, and the adventure that comes in the end, of course, trying to find Duke and bringing him home. If season 2 was Ghost Train, then of course season 5 was rightfully going to be Duncan Gets Spooked. Again, had played with tones that we'd realistically not seen before in the show. This episode actually showed an engine's death live on screen, even though it's clearly Skarloey falling into the water. It played with supernatural tones and left a message there to the audience to make up your own mind in terms of whether Duncan actually saw a ghost or whether it was his mind playing tricks on him. But again, for me, this always stuck out as a child and a very memorable episode. And thus, the golden era of the show came to a close on the 29th of June 1998 with Rusty and the Boulder. Thomas and the Magic Railroad would follow after season 5, but things were just never the same. David Mitton and Britt Allcroft would no longer be the partnership at the helm, and this would be the latest time the writer, director and producer collectively worked on the project. Thomas and Friends, as I knew it, had come to an end. 40 years on, and has the love for the golden era faded? Hell no. And I don't think it ever will. The fandom is still well and truly kicking, and so many talented and creative people out there modelling their own worlds, producing their faithful recreations of the show, and just keeping the magic of Ireland's Sodor alive for years to come. 32 years later, and has my love for the original golden era of the series diminished? Not at all. If anything, it seems to grow borderline more weirdly each and every year. These days it involves collecting the best merchandise line that ever came out of the franchise, Ertl models, hunting eBay for some pristine in packaging ones at a decent price, or reliving the days of 5-6-year-old me and opening some packaging up and having a closer look. Of course only if the packaging is damaged. Couldn't justify ripping open a near £100 Flying Scotsman. Ooh, shudder at the thought. Oh, there's a tug. How did that get in there? It also involves collecting vintage model railway items from Hornby and some fairly new ones from Bachmann. Look at that James I managed to score. Ooh, that's some good stuff. It also involves attending events and embracing the fandom for the original series and engaging with fellow fans when spotting an amazing collection of Thomas Hornby items at a model railway show, or meeting the creator of an amazing custom models at the yearly Audrey Extravaganza front at the Thecheekyengine Railway. It also involves heading to a heritage railway and visiting the main tank engine himself, even if you're the oldest fan there by some margin. So yeah, 40 years on and I'm still in love with the classic series. 40 years on and heck, look at the logo on my channel. Like, that says everything you need to know. Still in love with the franchise. 40 years on, I'm still collecting these vintage items. 40 years on, I'm still on the bus listening to the orchestral score version of Mike and Junior's brilliant soundtrack for the franchise. 40 years on, and I'm still watching the golden era of the series. 40 years on. The era of season 1 to 5, to sum up, I would say is peak. This period between 1984 to 1998 was the best the series ever got. It had charm, character, realism. It's the reason myself and I'm sure an army of train fans are even into steam trains in the first place. The series did a lot, and 40 years on it's still doing a lot, and so we salute Thomas and Friends on the 40th anniversary of its release, and no matter what certain owners decide to do to the show to this day and age, 40 years on, and the magic of the golden model era lives on.